All right. Hopefully it's working. Hopefully you guys are watching. Pay attention. We're going to go over the homework and then I'm going to take notes. We're going to do the same thing with notes and I'll teach you a few things. Um, you need to pay attention. So on the homework last night, I really asked you just to do angle A. So we're not going to worry about angle B. And I want to find sine, cosine, and tangent of angle A. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is, don't forget the trig function. You should have written this already on here. Some old horse caught another horse taking oats away. So if I'm only working with angle A, what I want to do is label hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. And very quickly, I want to do sine of A equals opposite over hypotenuse. That's 12 over 13. And that's all they wanted. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, the adjacent's 5. The hypotenuse is 13, so we'll just do 5 over 13. And finally, tangent. Tangent of angle A is opposite over adjacent. So that's 12 over 5. And that's that problem. I'll scroll down. Now, the next problem you had to work on was problem number 11. And so this is the angle we're talking about. Remember, we don't care about the 90. They're all going to be 90. If I do that, this is hypotenuse. This is opposite. And this is adjacent. Now, I don't care which one you want to start with. I'm going to try to find J first. Well, J is the opposite. I was given the hypotenuse. And if I remember correctly, that's sine. So sine of 40 is equal to opposite, which is J, over the hypotenuse, which is 16. Then I'm going to cross multiply, and I'll get J equals 16 times sine of 40 degrees. Now, if I type that into my calculator, 16 times sine of 40 degrees, I should get J equal to 10.2846, but I think the directions here would have round maybe to the hundreds place. I can't remember. Let me scroll up, see what it says. Round to the hundreds place, that's 2 decimals. So J equals 10.28. Then I want to find I. So I is using adjacent over hypotenuse. That's cosine. So cosine of 40 degrees is equal to the adjacent, which is I, over the hypotenuse, which is 16. And then we'll just cross multiply again, and we'll get I equal to 16 cosine 40 degrees. And if I type that into my calculator, 16 cosine 40, I get I equal to, and I'm just going to give you the answer, 12.26 rounded to the hundreds place. All right, down to the next problem you had to do. Next problem, I'm going to try to squeeze these in. Next problem you had to do was number 16. So we'll put the angle here. This is the hypotenuse. This would be opposite of that, and this would be the adjacent of that. So if I want to find D, that's sine because it's opposite and hypotenuse, remember? Some old hippie or some old horse. So sine of 50 degrees is equal to the opposite, which is D, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. I'm going to cross multiply, so that's D equal to 12 sine of 50 degrees. And if I type that in my calculator, 12 sine 50, I get D equal to 9.19. Now I want to find F. Well, F has to do with adjacent. So that's cosine, because cosine has caught another horse. So cosine of 50 degrees is equal to adjacent, which is F, over hypotenuse, which is 12. If I cross multiply again, I get F equal to 12 cosine 50 degrees. So F is equal to 7.1, oops, 7.71. All right, that's that. Let me see if I can erase it. It erases pretty good. Now we're going to do 17. 18 we did in class. All right, that gives me enough room for 17. We'll go back to the pen. Pen. Okay, here's the angle. Again, I was given the hypotenuse, which is great. If I'm not given the hypotenuse, it's a little bit work. Here's the opposite side. Here's the adjacent side. So I'm going to do opposite and hypotenuse. I'll do sine again. So sine of, I like red, sine of 45 degrees is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 20. So the opposite, that should be x. X is equal to 20 sine 45 degrees. Type it in. I get x equal to 14.14. To do the other one, I want to use adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine. So cosine of 45 degrees is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Ooh. Hypotenuse is 20. Adjacent is actually z. So how about z over 20? Cross multiply, I get z equals 20. Always put the number first. Cosine 45 degrees. So z is equal to, type in your calculator, you get 14.14. Now you notice these are the same. And that is in the world of trigonometry only because cosine of 45 degrees and actually sine of 45 degrees are equal. All right, I think we had 3 more problems, so let me just work on these. Do my best to work on these. Oops, sort of went crazy there. All right, so here's this angle, this triangle. It's a little bit more difficult because this time I was not given the hypotenuse, so I'm going to have a little bit more work to do. Here's the opposite. Here is the adjacent. So what I will do is I'm going to look for opposite and hypotenuse again. I know opposite and hypotenuse is sine, some old horse. So sine of the 42-degree angle is equal to opposite, which is 18, over hypotenuse, which is k. I will cross multiply again. So 18 times 1 is 18, equal to k times sine 42 degrees. But I still want k by itself, so I have to divide both sides by sine 42. Divide this side by sine 42, and I get k equal to, now what you're going to put in your calculator is 18 divided by sine 42, and you should end up with 26.90. Now I want to find r. Well, r is the adjacent. I was given the opposite. The trig function that uses opposite and adjacent, that's tangent. First time we're using tangent right now. So tangent of 42 degrees is equal to the opposite, which is 18, over the hypotenuse, over the adjacent, which is r in this case. We'll cross multiply again. We'll get 18 equals r times tangent 42 degrees. Divide both sides by tangent 42 degrees. And I get r equal to 18 divided by tangent 42. 19.99. 19.99. All right, so let's we're going to do 20 now. So I'm going to change to a different color just for fun. Let's go dark blue. Here's my angle. I can't really tell. This is hypotenuse. Back to an easy problem. Here's my opposite because it's opposite of the angle that was given. And this is adjacent. So sine of 65 degrees is opposite, which is d, over hypotenuse, which is 32. So d is equal to 32 times sine 65. And I get 29.00. So d equals 29.00. Now I'm going to do cosine because cosine is adjacent and hypotenuse. So cosine of 65 degrees is equal to adjacent, which is t, over hypotenuse, which is 32. So t is equal to 32 times cosine 65. So t equals 32 cosine 65. 13.52. 13.52. All right, that's that problem. Last problem for homework. Here's my angle. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. Oh, we weren't given hypotenuse. It's going to make it a little harder. And there's adjacent. So I can't use O and H. And I'm not going to be able to use sine because I don't have both those. So right now I'm going to work with O and A. I know O and A is tangent. So tangent of 40 degrees is equal to the opposite, which is H. Now we're going to call it O for now because that's confusing. O over 12. So O, which is the opposite in this case, is going to be equal to 12 times tangent 40 degrees. So 12 tan 40. And that's O, or the opposite side is 10.07. Now I'm going to find J, which is the hypotenuse, and that's hypotenuse and adjacent. That's cosine. So cosine of 40 degrees is equal to J over 12. Cross multiplying, I get J equals 12. Did I do that right? I did not do that right. It's adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm going to erase that. Didn't do that right. And try that again. Cosine is adjacent, which is 12, over the hypotenuse, which is J. Makes it a little bit harder. Cross multiply. I get 12 equals J cosine 40. Divide both sides by cosine 40. And I get J equal to 12 divided by cosine 40 equals 15.66. So there's your homework. Hopefully you did a good job. I'm going to teach you some notes. It's actually kind of easy, so pay attention. We're going to skip together a few pages, and I want you to turn to page 33.